Rendering techniques. So on Blender, we know we can kind of make things, we can manipulate them and so on. But one of the big things which is really nice on it is to be able to add colors, materials, textures, lighting, all these fancy stuff. So I'm going to go over a couple of those in this session. Not absolutely everything, because I don't know absolutely everything. But the one thing I want to point out is there is obviously a light which you can kind of see here, which is over on the right hand side, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on this at all. And that's because I'm on this second viewport. If I go to the third viewport, that will show me what the color is on the cube, because in the second one, it doesn't actually show you any of them. And in the very last one, the fourth one on the end, it actually shows the shadow which is being generated. So this light is kind of coming down here, and you can see the shadow on the side. And we'll have a little play around with the lights at a later stage. But anyway, first and foremost, I want to talk about how to add color to our cube. So I'm just going to drag this out so we can see it a bit better on the side. At the bottom of this list, so I just need to drag that up because mine's not as kind of tidy as yours then, you've got material. Now, if you click on material, the base color currently is set as white. So if I click on the white and I choose a color from there, you can see it updates on there. And I can kind of make that darker and lighter by dragging up and down. And the alpha basically means that how transparent you want it to be. So I'm not 100% sure if that kind of makes it see-through or not, but that's something you guys can have a look at as well. So if I kind of just click on that very one last one on the end, you can see that kind of effect as I kind of move around. So that's the lighting effect on that particular color. Now, one of the things I want to point out, you've got all these bits and pieces underneath, which some of them I have no idea what they do, but you can more or less mess around with these. So metallic then is currently set to 0. I'm going to drag that all the way up to the end, and you can see that did kind of change a little bit there. And the specular, or is it the roughness actually, I'm going to drag all the way down to 0. And as you see then, as I'm moving around, you can see that it's a metallic object and it's reflecting something. And you might be thinking, well, what is it reflecting? So if I click on that drop down area there, this is the scene worlds. Now on yours, you might have several scene worlds, but basically it's trying to show you what it looks like if it was like in a game or if it was in a 3D environment, what it would kind of be reflecting. And if I try to see what that looks like in the very last viewport where the lights are, you can see that it's not there anymore. And the reason why is because this is kind of almost like reality in respect of there isn't anything which is actually making a reflection then. You know, I can't actually see a reflection of anything on there. But anyway, back to that point there. I'm actually going to take the roughness. In fact, I'm going to take the metallic, leave it as it is actually. But I'm going to put the roughness back up to 0.5 just by clicking and typing into that area because I kind of like that gold look which is going on there. Now, another thing I want to point out as well, where you've got base color, you've got this little kind of dot next to it. When you click on that, you can actually go and look at all these different textures which are already pre-built into Blender. So, for example, I might want to do there's a nice one, I think it's that one actually. Let's see what that happens. And it does like that effect on it. Okay, so it actually puts like a pattern already on it for you. And there are things like a brick effect, which if I just quickly kind of click on there, and it does this, and there are loads of settings which are then associated with it. And I'm not going to go through them one by one. That's something you can do by yourselves. But in some ways, it's nice that you can actually use the pre-built ones in there. And in a few seconds' time, we'll talk about actually bringing in our own texture or image. But first thing I'm going to do, though, I want to add a plane because I actually want a surface for our brick to kind of like, or block to sit on. So I'm just going to scale that out so we can see like so, and I'm going to drop it down so it's kind of there. And then if I actually click on this, and it's nice to do a plane because you can actually see the proper shadows then which are being generated by something. Now, the main reason I brought this plane in is because I actually want to add something to this then. So again, if I click back on this one, so it just looks a bit tidier. So at the moment, we've got a material added to our a block. Now I can potentially use that material again if I click on this arrow, I think it is, or somewhere but there. If I click on new, and I can choose actually one which is already selected, so I could put the gold on there. But this time what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add my own image to this because I've got something on my desktop I want to go and add onto it. And I want to click on image texture. And if I click on open, and head to my desktop, and I've got this green grass texture. Now, it's not actually a proper texture, it's just a picture of grass, and as you can see, it appears there, and you're like, oh, that's great, that's lovely, and especially if you click on the last one, you can see that there's this shadow effect on it, so you can add your own images, your own textures to things as well. But that doesn't really look like grass, it looks like carpet. So one little thing I want to show on this video as well. If you click on, so I've got the actual grass plane selected. If I click on this here, which is particles, and I press plus, there's this hair option, and then you'll see all these strands of hair coming up. They're way too big, so I'm just going to make them smaller. And I'm just dragging left to right, so as you can see there. And the number, so there's 1,000 hair kind of like hair pieces coming up then. If I can't think, strands, that's the word coming up. I'm actually going to knock mine up to 75,000. I hope it doesn't blow up. But then you can see you get this grass effect. So it actually looks like proper grass. But then again, grass isn't always perfect like that, is it? So let's have a look at one other thing on the grass. Then if I click on advanced and drag it down to where it says physics, where it says brown area, and as I start to kind of go up, and I don't know if you can start seeing that happen on the screen, it looks a little bit more natural. And I know that if I do 0.3, because I tested this earlier, it kind of gives you something which looks more like grass then. And if I click back on here, then you can see I've got this. Now, it's pretty dark actually looking at that. Now, a light appeared, and if I click on it, if I click on the light bulb option here, currently it's set as 1,000 watts. It's a point light, so I can change it to be a sunlight, whoa, a spotlight, an area light. Area light looks quite nice actually, doesn't it? But I'm going to go back to points, and I'm going to increase that to 2,000 watts. So that makes it a lot brighter. And in fact, if I wanted to, if I click on add, and I go down to light, and I can add my own point lights, and this one has just appeared somewhere. Oh, where's it gone? In here. So it's this point light here, and I think I might need to, and this is a bit of a glitch on Blender 3.6. I need to click on this icon here, and where is this select box? I click on active tool, and then I am able to actually move it. So this point light, as you can see, is hardly making any light at all on this. It's a bit annoying the way this movement is working as well. Maybe if I do it from the top, then maybe if I do it so it's the right now. Do you know, like I said to you a second ago, this point light has got, and I scroll down to the light section, got as 2,000, but it's defaulted as 1,000. Now this other point light, this guy here, for some reason, it gives you just 10. So if I knock that up to 1,000, and then you can see then, starting to actually make something which looks pretty good in terms of like the colors, in terms of like the reflections, and clean kind of way the grass looks. So that's kind of rendering in a nutshell. It's not everything you can do rendering wise, but it kind of gives you an idea of what you can do color wise, image wise, texture wise, and lighting and shades wise as well.